Greetings to our lecturer Sir Tony. My name is Nazlan bin Abd Said and I am from Group 1 PAD270 and I am presenting together with my group members about what factors may have contributed to Pakatan Harapan collapse. I will begin by explaining the introduction. The Barisan National Party has been in power since Malaysia achieved independence in 1957, making it the longest-serving political party in the country. But in 2018, Pakatan Harapan created the country's political history by ending Barisan National's 60-year rule in Malaysia when the party collapsed in the 14th general election. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, who will become the world's oldest Prime Minister after defeated Prime Minister Najib Razak in a standing election loss. Pakatan Harapan coalition consists of the Democratic Action Party, United Progressive Kinabalu Organization, People's Justice Party, and National Trust Party. Its main allied political parties are the Sabah Heritage Party, Homeland Fighter Party, Malaysian United Democratic Alliance, and Sarawak United Party. The 21-month-old government, the Pakatan Harapan, fell because Tun Dr. Mahathir resigned as Prime Minister of Malaysia. Without further delay, I would like to welcome Nazim, who will presenting the first factor.
Hello and good morning to Mr. Tony and my fellow classmates. My name is Adelin Nazimuddin and today I will be discussing further on issues that causes Pakatan Harapan government to collapse. As we know, there are several causes and internal disputes among the coalition is one of it. Despite having a tremendous win on the 14th general election, Pakatan Harapan, along with the hope from the people who vote for them, collapsed after only 22 months in power. Malaysian citizen is looking forward to this government performance to execute their promises, which also involve in recovering the country from the damages that have been done by the previous government. To begin, internal disputes among the coalition can be seen clearly on different occasions, such as the disagreements between the coalition on the parliament. This can be seen on the issue of Flying National Car project, an idea originated from the previous Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir from the Wawasan 2020 idea, and also the Linas rare earth issue. The cabinet decision was divided and ununified, as some of the ministers has even publicly displayed remarks of disagreeing with their colleagues in the cabinet to the media. As we know, collective ministry responsibility is binding among the cabinets. This is to show the government were well prepared and are in the same mind to rule the country, yet they fail to display synchronization amongst them, showing the doubts they have between them towards the public. Moreover, the disagreement among themselves have causing them to be neglecting each other. Pakatan Harapan members of parliament are seen to be neglecting one and another in the parliament, trying to save their own hide from the wrath of the people. For instance, Pakatan Harapan ministers have been proposing international laws to be ratified, as such the Rome Statute and ICET, with the hope to implement and introduce new ways of living in Malaysia, as those international laws are mainly about human rights, protection from discrimination, and fair equitable justice. During the parliamentary process, Barisan Nasional as the effective opposition has been attacking Pakatan Harapan Minister Weta Murty, and successfully raises an important issue and suspicion. At those particular moment where Pakatan Harapan Minister Weta Murty was pushed to the wall with number of questions, none of his colleagues are willing to stood and back him up, which display clearly how ununified is Pakatan Harapan government. In addition, the lack of cohesion between members of Pakatan Harapan coalition resulted to their collapse. Clearly, this was related to ex-member of UMNO that joined Bersatu after losing the 14th general election. Those ex-members of UMNO who still hold the same ideology from their previous party are having trouble cooperating with the Pakatan Harapan coalition, as their political agenda are mostly regarding to the rights of indigenous people, especially the issues involving Malay rights. This was against the Pakatan Harapan political agenda, where they were also striving for equality of rights, regardless of races, and focusing on eliminating discrimination. They were also having trouble cooperating with someone who have been their enemy for decades, such as the AP and PKR. It is hardly surprising if disagreement and quarrel were to happen among coalition members or even party itself. Thus, it can definitely be stated that causes of Pakatan Harapan government collapse were none other than themselves. Pointing fingers and claiming that previous opposition has been the sole reason was a shameful act. Should they become an effective government, Pakatan Harapan could still be the ruling government until today.
Good day to Sir Tony. I'm Nurfarahain binti Jantan, and I would like to present about the second issues that affected Pakatan Harapan during post-general election 14. One of the issues that affected Pakatan Harapan during the post-general election 14 is due to deserting the 12 promises in the manifesto and failed to fulfill the promise in the governance. The Pakatan Harapan government introduced the Book of Hope, also known as Buku Harapan, that will pave the new era in Malaysian politics. But however, it is likely that the creator saw that electoral victory as a distant possibility rather than a foregone conclusion, and is following the collapse of the long-ruling party, which is Barisan Nasional. Buku Harapan has become a significant component of Malaysia's progressive path and agenda, and it continues to have an impact in the Malaysian administration. If Buku Harapan was interpreted correctly, Pakatan Harapan fell in its 100 days. The Pakatan Harapan lost the trust of the people because they were unable to fulfill the promises that were supposed to be fulfilled within the 100 days of their governance. In addition, the Pakatan Harapan manifesto might be prepared by the incompetent committee tends to result in the government's inability to fulfill the promises within the 100 days. The committee of the government had written the manifesto without conducting a prior research or gathering accurate information, make it possible to fulfill the promises within the 100 days. The problem is that the manifesto has been written by the others rather than the Prime Minister itself, which is Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, who has a comprehensive experience in the government. The committee may lack of experience in the government, resulting in a lack of understanding of its fundamentals as well as its processes. They assumed that delivering the manifesto would be easy, where they could form the government today and accomplish all the promises within the next day. The people gave Pakatan Harapan their mandate to form a government because with the promises that had made to them, which was one of the major factors why they voted for Pakatan Harapan during the general election. Even the Prime Minister itself, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, claimed that Pakatan Harapan had made too many promises because it didn't expect to win the general election in May. Being essentially apologetic is a good thing, but however, it could be seen that the Pakatan Harapan government were unprepared, unable to do a preliminary research on the concerns of subject matters under the jurisdiction. From the example of Semeni election, losing the Semeni by-election is a disappointment for a Pakatan Harapan government because Semeni is a seat held by the Pakatan Harapan government, and it proves that the Pakatan Harapan government popularity has been decreased where there is something wrong within the governments. It is certainly expected because Pakatan Harapan, after making so many promises in the previous general election, and it proves that the Pakatan Harapan party used the lies and depends on it. They have gone too far in not fulfilling the promises that they have been made. As a result, the voters become upset and ended up voting against them. And it completely shows that the Pakatan Harapan is a completely failed government during the governance. The other promises that unable to fulfill by the Pakatan Harapan is to eliminate the tolls where, for example, unable to fulfill the promises because they were lack of government funds. This is certainly relevant to the elimination of goods and services tax, which is GST. However, when it comes to promises to abolish the tolls, even though the Pakatan Harapan is cited that they lack of government funds, which is as the result of the previous governments of wastefulness, the people will still blame for them and make them responsible for it. Although the move to eliminate the GST is widely accepted by the people, it was strongly criticized by the analysts and economists, and it forcing the Pakatan Harapan to implement more new taxes to make up for the shortfall. Although GST is strongly not popular for a variety of reasons because it resulted in the impulsive inflation, but however, by overturning the GST and discovering the lack of funds, they were forced to impose for new taxes that will burden the other people. Another point of discussion is the promises about the education reform. With the manifesto, they're promising to reform the system to make a national school, the school of choice, but however, that there were a few efforts made in this direction. Other than that, PT-PT is still a problem. The repayment of this debt, which the government has promised to recognize and abolish the blacklisting policy. While the government removed the debtors from the travel blacklisting following the general election 14, but however, the policy was not completely revoked. In fact, there have been calls that reimpose the travel ban. The government has stated that recognizing the promises is an unachievable ambition. When it comes to reducing the burden encountered by the student when it comes to PTPT and repayment. Therefore, these promises made by the Pakatan seems unrealistic since they were unable to fulfill the promises and reducing the burdens that faced by the youth that have the PTPT and debt. So the issues that Pakatan Harapan manifesto is they failed to fulfill the promises, and their setting for untold promises really affected their governance during the post-general election. Therefore, the Pakatan Harapan should not be simply provide and setting a tall promise in their manifesto without further study the actual concerns that really matters to the people, despite draft too much promises in the manifesto just to gain the people's vote.
Hello, my name is Dayangku Atiqah Karena. I would like to continue our presentation with topic racial issue. So for the first one is, Pakatan Harapan has won the majority but unable to get support from Malay voters. In this case, the outcome from this election is mainly related with the Malay sentiments, where the Malay voters is doubting the Pakatan Harapan coalition party due to the existence of doubt, and this resulting in the coalition party only gain victory due to the supports from voters from urban areas, Chinese and Indian voters, but not Malay. And for the second one, Malay insecurity towards Pakatan Harapan government started to increase due to the appointment of non-Malay figure for a key position. In this case, Malay voters in rural areas does not have so much faith in Pakatan Harapan government. The Malay voters also started their doubtful by saying that the Pakatan Harapan government is Chinese government which will treat the rights of Malay, and also because of the objective of Pakatan Harapan, which is to become a multiracial country like Singapore. There are no reassurance from Pakatan Harapan government at all for the public, especially for Malay. And last but not least, the opposition parties have taken some advantages from these situations by questioning the government commitment in the aspect of preserving the Malaysia interests. So, UMNO and PAS also claim that the Malay will be in more advantageous position if they were administered under a Malay-based administration. After that, Pakatan Harapan government arise another major problem ties to threaten the Malay supremacy. Pakatan Harapan government planned to sign the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, which is ICRD. By signing the ICRD, it is very likely to remove the Malay supremacy. To add, in Malaysia, where Malay is a dominant race, the acceptance toward the non-Malay for the equal rights is not valid. Malay has been influenced by the ideology of DAP is the Chinese party, and when they are in power, they believe that the Malay Islam supremacy will be declined. This is also means that the Malay sentiment in Malaysia is very dominant, and the Malay are not ready to share equal rights, not only as a citizen, but also in the political aspect.
Greetings to Sir Tony and my fellow friends. My name is Izarlyn Daneesha, and I will proceed to the last issues that affected Pakatan Harapan government post GE-14. And this issue is called as the Jantan move. It is the day where the government fell. This crisis begins when an issue arises between two political figures, Tun Dr. Mahathir, the Prime Minister during that time, and the President of PKR, Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Basically, a consensus was reached before they formed the government, where Tun Dr. Mahathir will be succeeded by Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim after some time. The time frame was never written, but Tun Dr. Mahathir did mention in an interview that the transition will be done only after the APEC summit meeting in November 2020. Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim seems to agree to wait until November, but there is another party that is unhappy and restless with this transition. Not only that, Tun Dr. Mahathir also seems reluctant to give the power to Anwar. This leads to a meeting held in Sheraton Hotel, hence the name Sheraton Move, to plan about forming a new Malay-led coalition party and it is helmed by Dr. Mahathir. However, Dr. Mahathir refused to cooperate with them since the coalition party consists of a corrupted party which is known to be UMNO. Tun Mahathir then felt betrayed by his own party Bersatu and decides to resign from both positions as the Prime Minister and the Chairman of Bersatu. Along with that, Bersatu also announced that they will be leaving the Pakatan Harapan coalition, followed by defectors from PKR led by Azmin Ali. Tun Mahathir then proposed to form a unity government which claimed to be focusing on the interests of the people rather than the political parties, and the government invites all participation from political parties including the rivals except for the corrupted party. PAS, UMNO, PH rejected the proposal and also they withdrew their support for Mahathir. This left Mahathir with no support to be elected again as the Prime Minister. Not only that, Pakatan Harapan also has no support to form a new government since Bersatu and others PKR defectors left the coalition party. After days of waiting, finally, MPs of Bersatu nominate Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin as the Prime Minister candidate, and this nomination was supported by MCA, PAS and UMNO. Thus, Tan Sri Muhyiddin has the majority support and YDPA appoints Tan Sri Muhyiddin as the 8th Prime Minister of Malaysia. However, Tun Dr. Mahathir claims that Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin doesn't have the majority support. Instead, he himself has the majority support, but YDPA denies the audience with him, which made Tun Dr. Mahathir fail to prove his claim. This shows that the Sheraton move is a major issue that leads to the collapse of the Pakatan Harapan government. After days of betrayals and U-turns made Pakatan Harapan unable to stay in power, and the government was replaced by the new government Perikatan Nasional. That is all from me. Thank you for listening.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Mohd Farizal and I will present about the conclusion. In the last 14th general election, Pakatan Harapan surprised the whole of Malaysia by winning the victory over the longest serving Barisan Nasional in Malaysia, with this making the formation of a new government for Malaysia. Malaysians have shown their desperation to make a change of government. This makes it one of the examples of real democracy, as it has no issues and bloodshed by the people. Despite being desperate to change the Malaysian government, Pakatan Harapan is still not able to save the country because the previous government has done a lot of damage. This is due to the incompetence in forming the government due to lack of experience. The manifesto presented by Pakatan Harapan is difficult to implement and quite impossible to do in a short time. Moreover, the disputes carried out by the Barisan Nasional have had an impact on those who brought action to the Sheraton by members of Pakatan Harapan. This problem is mentioned a self-inflicted problem that resulted in an embarrassing collapse. The efforts made by Pakatan Harapan to rectify the situation eventually turned into a quarrel among themselves, convey that they do not care about the people who need them, namely the Pakatan Harapan government, by doing something that can help the people to restore the country's image from the action taken by the previous Prime Minister, namely corruption and the high cost of living experienced by Malaysians. Nevertheless, Malaysians still expect the new government to do something so that the country can recover as usual. The problem of mention is an example and reason for the collapse of the Pakatan Harapan coalition, a coalition that held the hopes of Malaysians but failed to be the saver of the country. That's all from me. Thank you.